everybody, I'm Palm Beaches Paul, your original South Florida YouTube realtor, and welcome back. So it's a beautiful day. It wasn't a few minutes ago before I started filming. It was actually raining and pouring. So we were getting one of those feeder bands. And right when I brought my son up here to go surfing, he texted me from school and said, "Dad, the waves are good." Funny enough, my boss texted me this morning too, and he said the waves would be good. But yeah, on one side of Florida, it's decent, and I'm sitting out here at the beach, and the other side of Florida, people are hunkering down, waiting for this storm to pass over. And our thoughts and prayers are with the people out there. Hopefully, there's no significant damage from this storm to the people in the northwest panhandle of Florida. I think this is a little bit better view, don't you? So we are in hurricane season. As you've seen, the tropics have been heating up, and Florida got their first hurricane today. And we've had like 3 tropical storms about a week ago that were out in the Atlantic that didn't really turn into anything. It's super windy, sorry. But it is going into September, October, the 2 months of the year where Florida typically gets hit by hurricanes. But it got me thinking. I haven't made a video like this in a while. And so I wanted to make a video about 5 reasons why you might not want to move to Florida.
Say what?
I know. Shocking, right? I'm a realtor. I make my living off you people calling me and saying, "Hey, Paul, we love the beach. We love the waves. We love the sunshine. We want to move to Florida." And that's great. And all of that is true. And all of that is here. But today I'm going to talk to you about 5 reasons why you might not want to move to Florida. And some of these things have changed since I did a video in the past, like the pros and cons. And hurricanes and the weather is definitely one of them. Weather has been changing over the past couple years. We are presently going through one of the hottest summers on record here in the country and in the state of Florida. I know it gets hot in Florida. I knew that when I moved here, but not the kind of heat we've been dealing with this summer. It's been absolutely miserable to the point where I don't even want to be outside. And I know some may go, "Oh, you're a baby," but listen, I've lived here 30 years. Think what you want. I know what I'm talking about. It is hotter this summer than it has ever been in the state of Florida. Humid, the storms were stronger, the heat was more intense, and it sucks. So we're gonna talk about 5 reasons why you might not wanna move here. Not that I'm trying to talk you out of it, because I make a living off you moving here, but I'm an honest guy, and these are some reasons that you may decide are enough to keep you away from the state of Florida. So let's go take a walk and talk about these 5 reasons. It's definitely hot out, man. I need that breeze to come back. And I'm wearing this black shirt, which I don't know what I was thinking about that. Sweat, really hot, but all right, guys. So hurricanes, and we'll get to that as one of the reasons. But let's talk about some of the reasons that people might not want to live here in Florida. So as I stated at the beginning of the video, we are in the middle of hurricane season. Now, hurricane season starts June 1st and runs till November 30th, but nothing happens all summer long, even though there's lots of thunderstorms, rain, lots of heat. Nothing typically happens until September, late August, which of course we can see with the storm that's out there right now that's hitting on the northwest panhandle of Florida, north of Tampa, which hit as a Category 4, the first hurricane. So those months of September and October are when most of those storms hit us. October is when Ian hit the West Coast last year. So you can see that those are 2 of the most active months, and then it kind of slows down in November. Although there could be a storm, it's not likely that we'll get one in November. But hurricanes aside, the rest of the summer, well, let me back up. Hurricanes aside, Florida has 2 seasons, wet and really wet. For 6 months, starting in June, it rains, and it has rained nearly every single day up until like August. June and July this summer rained almost every single day. And I'm not talking about your little summer, hey, it's a little downpour or a little sprinkle, summer shower. No, I'm talking about full on gusty winds, massive lightning strikes, like to the sound of like bombs. That's how strong the storms were this summer. And the lightning was so intense, it was crazy. I mean, my wife and I would be sitting there watching TV and the whole house would rumble because the lightning was so intense. So, and Florida is the lightning strike capital of the world. So there's that. But you have, summer with just lots and lots of rain and downpours and flooding and lightning and tornadoes. We had a tornado that hit Palm Beach Gardens. You saw that earlier in the spring. And so the weather is just, and that's here in South Florida, but even in the rest of Florida, it rains a lot and it's hot. It's really hot. Florida's just a hot state. It's in the south. And of course, the closer you get down to Miami and stuff, it just gets warmer and warmer. So, and there is no real winter weather here, because once we get out of hurricane season in November and December rolls around, then we start getting these breezes. Like we're getting a breeze today, but that's because of the winds from the hurricane. That's not normal. But once it gets to be like, say, January, the temperatures drop, and that is a great time of the year. January through May, I call it my paradise weather. There's no humidity. You have some nice temps, the 70s, the 80s. Sometimes you get in the low 50s and 40s with an occasional cold front that comes through. But once that's gone, we get back to the summer, man, it's 6 months of hell. It's just not fun in the summer. So if you don't like excessive heat, deadly lightning, the possibility of tornadoes and hurricanes every year, Florida might not be for you, right? Because it's going to be that way every year. There's no winter and summer. It's summer and summer light. One of the things about Florida is it is surrounded by water, right? That's obvious. So we've got all these beaches and all this water. Well, here's one other reason why you might not want to move to Florida. Scientists predict that by the year 2100, the lower third of Florida will be underwater. So the lower third, I don't know if that includes us, but that's going to be Miami, the Florida Keys, could be Fort Lauderdale, I don't know. You saw what happened to Fort Lauderdale this year. They got flooded, the airport got flooded, and that was just from a summer rainstorm. So, as I said, the weather is definitely changing, and I don't know, unless you want some waterfront property in Boca, and I mean waterfront as in like out west, and maybe what was Davie once is now underwater. I don't know, I hope not, but it's scary to think that could happen. So, all right, I think we've talked enough about the weather. Let's move on. So now, we all know Florida's a beautiful place to live, right? I mean, if you can deal with the heat, you need a place to live. And living here is expensive. It's beautiful, but it's expensive. How expensive? Well, I'm gonna have to look at my notes for this one, guys. So, but the average cost of living in Florida is about $51,000 a year. Now, I can tell you, $51,000 a year, you're not gonna be able to afford much down here, especially for a house, much less even renting. So, inflation is super high. West Palm Beach was recently named the inflation capital of the world, with the highest inflation at 9% compared to the rest of the country. 9% inflation here in West Palm Beach. Not something I'm proud about, but the cost of living here has gotten quite expensive. So the cost of living in Florida is 1% higher than the national average. Big helicopter. But they're not worried about the cost of living. So the cost of living is 1% higher in Florida than the national average. And housing is 4% higher than the national average. So think about that. To live here in Florida, it costs you 4% more than it does in most other places in the United States. Oh, look, he's circling back around. He must be looking for Palm Beaches Paul. They're coming in for a landing. So while housing was 4% higher than the national average, insurance was 1% higher than the national average, but food and clothing, things, necessities, were about 2% less than the national average. So maybe that balances out a little bit, but not really. So let's talk about South Florida. So I talked about the cost of living and give you a national average, but in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale was 21% higher than the national average, and Miami was 20%, or 21% in Miami, 20% in Fort Lauderdale. Woo! The wind's kicking. I lose my hat. So you can tell that here, like in Palm Beach County, which is close to Fort Lauderdale, in those areas, it was much more expensive to live here than it was in the rest of the country, or even other parts of Florida. And that's typical because we're on the East Coast. We got all these amazing beaches. Everyone loves the beach life, and it's just a lot of people want to live here, and they're causing the price of homes to go up. So something you might want to consider if you're thinking about moving here down to this southeast part of Florida. Man, the sand's starting to blow in my face. I'm trying to go stand over by the pump house to block a little bit of this. and it is so windy. I hope you guys can hear this video. So I turn my hat around, I'm gonna lose it. So, all right, so let's talk about, geez, I feel like I'm in a hurricane. Let's talk about what you need to earn. So according to bankrates.com, in order to buy a house in Miami, you would have to earn around $121,000 a year. Now, the median sales price of a home for July was $600,000. And so, I don't know what you can buy with $121,000, but that's what they're saying. And then to rent a place, and again, this is Miami. To rent a place, they're saying that you would need to make at least $80,000 a year just to rent a place in Miami. So I've been working with a lot of renters lately here, and I can tell you that's been increasingly difficult to find a place for people to rent because all the renters or all the landlords want first, last, and security. On top of that, they want you to make 3 times the rent. So if it's a $3,000 rental, you need to be pulling in $9,000 a month. There's not a lot of people making that kind of money, especially renting. So that is one of the problems. So the cost of living has gotten really, really high here in the South Florida marketplace. I'm sorry, that was gobankingrates.com. That's where that source was about how much you need to earn. But it's expensive. You got to make quite a good amount of money to afford to buy a house here in South Florida. And well, heck, not even buying, just renting. God, man, I feel like I'm gonna get blown over this jetty. The wind's just howling right now. But anyway, here's where all the surfers are. You can see why everyone's out here right now. My kid's in the mix. They're trying to surf. All right, so we've talked about the weather. This is a reason why you might not want to move to Florida, although I've lived here for 31 years and I survived it. We've talked about the cost of living. It's getting more expensive, but again, I've managed to stay here for 31 years. I'm not a wealthy guy, but I do okay. And yeah, it's been tough this year, in the past couple of years, but I'm not going to leave because of that either. So let's go to the third reason why you might not want to move here. All right, I found myself a nice, quiet little spot here on this embankment next to the bridge. Kind of sitting up here, watching the water go by, and it's nice and quiet. There's not a lot of people here. There's a gentleman fishing, 1 or 2 people walk by. It is in the middle of the week, and it's not crowded like it would be on the weekend, but it's getting more difficult to find what I would call a quiet place or where you can be by yourself here in Florida because the state is just getting really crowded. So in 2022, the state of Florida hit 22,244,000 people. It's the 3rd in the nation for population. That's a lot of people in the state of Florida. And just last year, over 444,000 new residents made Florida their home. So the state's getting really crowded. And with all those people come cars and motorcycles and bicycles and scooters and whatever means of transportation you have. And that's a lot of traffic and a lot of cars in the state of Florida, especially here in South Florida and Miami in particular. I try to avoid unless I absolutely have to go there because I know no matter what time of the day I leave and go to Miami, I'm going to hit traffic. And no matter what time I leave Miami, I'm going to hit traffic. So you might as well just make it a full day event. So in South Florida, with little to no public transportation, although someone did correct me on one of my videos that Miami does have pretty good public transportation with its monorail system and the buses, and of course there's the Bright Line now and Tri-Rail, and so they do have it better than places like Fort Lauderdale and West Palm. But with that said, Miami ranked 9th in the world as some of the worst traffic. Think about that. Out of all the places in the world, Miami ranked 9th. And I believe it, because if you've driven to Miami lately, oh man, that traffic sucks. And for the United States, it ranked 5th. That's right, Miami's in the top 5 of the worst places to drive for traffic in the United States. On average, people spent 105 hours in traffic delays in traffic in Miami last year. Now, add to that 138 million people came to visit the state of Florida, and a majority of those people rented cars because no one wants to walk around in 98-degree thunderstorms. So although most of the people come here in the winter when it is nicer, but still, that's a lot of people coming here and a lot of people driving who aren't used to South Florida driving, which is a problem in itself. Now, traffic isn't the only place that it's getting crowded. I've told you in many of my videos that if you're not at one of your favorite beach spots by 9 a.m. in the morning, you're gonna be out of luck. Now, this particular place that I'm at right now, and I don't even want to say the name, although you've seen it in my video so you can figure it out for yourself, but still has free parking. That's great. That parking is gone in the winter. Like if you're not here by 8:30, don't plan on finding a spot because it's gone. And all of the beaches up and down in Palm Beach County, most of those beaches, they're parking and they charge you for a lot of them. Those spaces are all taken pretty quick. So, and finding a place where you can be by yourself is almost impossible. Now, I did make a video about Singer Island, and I went to John D. MacArthur Park, and I talked about how this is a really cool beach because there's hardly anybody there. I was there on a Saturday, mind you, it was in the summer, and it was towards 5 o'clock, but there was only a few people around on the beach, but to the north, there was no one there. So you can go to places like that. It is a state park, so you gotta pay $3 to get in, but you can get away from the crowds if you want to. You just gotta drive a little bit north. But from Boynton Beach, south, Boca, going on to Fort Lauderdale, the beaches are just jam-packed. So overall, just the whole state of Florida is getting crowded. So if you don't like crowds, Florida might not be for you because it's getting real crowded and it's gonna keep getting crowded because we're still considered the #1 state that people wanna move to. Imagine that. With all that, and they're still moving here. I don't know about you, but you couldn't pay me to get on that thing. That thing isn't floating. Look, see that pole? They got it shoved down in the sand as an anchor. It's all rusted out. I don't know how that thing floats. I guess it does, I don't know. Imagine they'll get it out of here when they're done. But so I moved over to another side of the park that's kind of quiet. There's a lot of nice picnic tables over here. There's a shallow beach for kids to play. And it's got like a little beach with the rocks over here. See, so it's just another part of the beach, and you can see the inlet out there and where the boats will go by over the coastal waterway. So this is a really pretty place, and it's a nice little nature feel to it with the trees and the park benches. It's nice and quiet as well. That wind's picking up again, and it looks like another feeder band about to come through. Man, crazy. And I'm glad it's not our coast that's getting hit. So getting outside is one of the things that we all love to do here in Florida. And when you get outside, you have to share it with nature. And with nature, you have to share it with bugs and other creatures because they're here. So Florida has its fair share of creatures, and quite a few of them are non-friendly, let's say, and some of them are actually poisonous. So along with all the native bugs that will bug you, like mosquitoes and stuff like that, and alligators and sharks, there's over 500 invasive species in Florida alone that don't belong here. And you've got your iguanas, which they don't hurt anybody, they hurt the vegetation. But we've got lionfish, they don't belong here, they will hurt you if you get stung by one or you touch their spine. But they're really good to eat from what I've heard. And I'm actually going to interview a guy who hunts them for a living, so that's going to be something coming up. Then you have, as I said, mosquitoes, but we had like malaria this summer. We had malaria in Florida. Let's think like maybe Africa or somewhere, right? Way down there, but we had malaria. And then there's always West Nile virus, which is carried by mosquitoes. You have no-see-ums. No-see-ums are those tiny little bugs that you can't see. So no-see-ums, get it, no-see-ums? And they're usually in the mangroves. And if you go fishing or you're anywhere out by an estuary or somewhere and you're near those mangroves, trust me, if you don't see them, you'll feel them. And then you'll see your whole body covered with little red bites. So those are just some of the annoying things. And then, of course, we had sharks. We had crocodiles. Did you know that? We had saltwater crocodiles down in the Florida Keys. We have, there's wild boar. One of my friends has wild boar in her backyard. There's obviously bear, panthers, those things. You've got pythons. I almost said anaconda. Hopefully not. We've got pythons, which don't belong here. And then you have all sorts of lizards. Like I said, iguanas, Jesus lizards, Cuban something. It's Cuban something, but they're really mean and they're green and have a really vicious bite. There's these red and orange lizards that I just started to see about a year ago. and just countless other bugs and things that don't belong here. So, you know, Florida's an outdoor state, right? I mean, beaches, of course, we love to get out and enjoy our nature here in Florida, but you're going to share it with a lot of creatures, not to mention the number one bug that people hate, the flying cockroach, the palmetto bug. So there's a lot of bugs and a lot of reptiles, and you know, we have coral snakes. There's just a lot of things here. So if that's not your jive, then Florida might not be for you, because they're never going to go away. They're going to be here, and as much as we try to get rid of them, even the guy who's out hunting the lionfish, he said there's just thousands of them. So they keep breeding. So thank God they're edible. So I heard you could eat iguana too, but I'm not going to try it. But yeah, so there's a lot of bugs, a lot of things here in the state of Florida that you might not want to live with, and that might be a reason why you don't want to move here. So, all right, well, that's 4. What's the 5th one going to be? Well, we're going to go talk about it right now. All right, we're going to head back over here and see if my kid's done surfing. You know, I asked him when he's out surfing and he's on the waves, how is it when you're surfing with a lot of the other surfers, especially like the locals that have been like, you know, here forever, and it's kind of like, yo, bro, it's my wave. And he said most everyone's pretty cool. Every once in a while, though, man, the wind's blowing hard again. Every once in a while, you'll get a couple of guys that act like douchebags, or like, you know, you're in my way, or move, you know, whatever. Like they think it's their wave, which, you know, that's bullshit. Sorry, surfers, but the ocean's everybody's. I understand getting in your way is one thing, but you don't own the wave, bro. So, sorry, you're wrong on that one. Damn this wind. All right, so speaking of that, friendliness. Is Florida a friendly place? Well, unfortunately, it ranked at the bottom of the list for being a friendly state. I'm friendly. Now, for the most part, I think it's a pretty friendly state. I've lived here, as I said, 30-something years. I've never had any real problems. Couple assholes on the, sorry, but that's what they are. A couple assholes on the highway. You're driving and people act like jerks and cut you off. You know, almost crash into you. But other than that, most people are pretty nice. I mean, there's jerks everywhere. But I've made friends with my neighbors. I've had good neighbors. I've had bad neighbors. I've met people at work that are cool and people at work that suck. I don't think it's, you know, I did come from Texas, which is a friendly state. So I will say Texas is much more friendlier when you talk to people. But for the most part, I've met a lot of great locals and people who moved here from out of state that are super friendly. So I don't know, I guess you make that what you will. You're nice to people, they're nice to you back. But there's jerks everywhere. You can tell the driving's got me on edge. I hate the way that people drive. There's just no reason to cut someone off and almost cause an accident. All right, so there's 5 reasons why you might not want to move to Florida. I would still move here. I've been here. So I didn't know all those things before I moved here, but I don't think they would have stopped me from moving here. Matter of fact, I moved here in '92 and Hurricane Andrew hit in Miami. Thank God it didn't hit in West Palm where I was. I might not have stayed, but I might not have lived. But I stayed, and I've stayed for all the other good or bad reasons here, and I like it, and you guys know that. That's why I have this channel. So please be sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like, share, comment, all that good stuff. Keep me growing. Let's get to 6,000 subscribers. Let's keep rolling to 10,000 subscribers. And if you're thinking about moving to South Florida and need a local realtor, reach out to me. I've got the knowledge and the know-how to help you buy and sell down here, and I'd be happy to do it. So, all right, guys, until next time, get out and enjoy paradise. Thanks for watching.